Hey everybody, it's Jason. Welcome to a video for Time Rift. So this we're going to talk about the game. We're going to go over a couple different things. We're going to kind of go over basic, like what's in the game, what it is, quick, like kind of how to play, what the idea of the game is. And then I'm going to show off a bunch of the cards that have been previewed so far. It's currently, as of this video, in Kickstarter for another like 20 some days or so. And then I'm going to show, and then the third part of it, I'm going to kind of go through and show off some of the differences between the original and the inspiration for this game, which is Anachronism. So I'm going to click my title. So Anachronism was the original game from the History Channel. And then we jumped in, now we have Time Rift, which is by some of the same people that either played it or worked on it, who really love the game, and they've been working on making an update. So this is going to be really cool if you love Anachronism, you're going to love Time Rift. If you hate Anachronism, this isn't going to probably win you over anyway. But we could say that'll be the first part. We're going to go through and just kind of talk about what's kind of, like what the new game is, what the rules are, or some of the gameplay stuff. It's not a full how to play video. They do have that up on the Kickstarter page. Then we're gonna go through, look at all the new cards there, and kind of see what's in this game, what some of them do, and then we're gonna have the last part of it. We're gonna jump in and actually compare them to some of the original ones, and what the Anachronism, sort of what was different between them. So in case you're like, oh, I loved it, but what's actually different? Now, a few notes on this is, I am not part of the Time Rift team. I have no association with them. I don't have any contact with them outside of what everyone else does, just on like Discord and on the Kickstarter or on the Facebook page. I am not promoting this. I'm not getting any sponsorship for this. This is just me for the love of Anachronism. I'm trying to help promote this game, and I thought this might help. Also, I do not have any promos or demo stuff, so everything I'm pulling is stuff I've seen online or in videos, or information that anyone else has access to. I don't have any hidden extra information. I didn't get any, promo, demo stuff. I didn't get to go to, the Gen Con and play the demo. So, there might be things I'm missing, or I've overlooked, or I've said incorrectly on how a rule or a gameplay or something is done. If that is, I apologize. Again, I'm just doing this as a fan. And then the last thing I just want to mention before we start hopping into the rest of the video is there will be a secondary video I'm doing where I'm actually going to play a game. I know a bunch of people wanted to see what the gameplay looks like, so I have some idea of what they're getting into. Some people played Anachronism, so they already know what they're getting into. They know what this is. I'm going to play through a game, which has several different parts. It's going to be like a regular game, and I'm going to do like a second game where I switch up some of the cards, the layouts and stuff to see on my deck, to kind of see like what differences you'd play if I play deck A versus deck B. And then do like a third one, I swap out some other cool stuff, and we're going to play around that. So definitely check out, there'll be a link in the description for that. So what is in Time Rift? So first of all, you're going to get booster packs. This is one big difference from the original Anachronism. Because in that set, what made that super popular is you bought a pack of 5 cards. And they were a warrior character, and then there were 4 cards that are associated with that warrior, all based on usually a country or a culture. So like Japanese, Persian, Native American, we had pirates, Mongolian, Egyptian, Roman, Greek, a lot of cool stuff. Chinese, I'm trying to think of any of the other ones I missed. Irish. I know I didn't get all of them. There's a bunch. There was like 8 different sets that came out. So this is kind of continuing the tradition of that, but a twist. So what was neat about that is if you bought a pack, you always knew exactly what cards you had. This is kind of taking a twist on that. So every pack is going to have 12 cards in it. It's going to have 2 battle decks. It's going to be the 5 cards for the champion, and there are 4 cards associated with them. So you're going to get 2 of each of those. And they're going to get 2 special chrono cards. So although, yes, you're not going to know exactly what you have in each pack, every pack is 100% a playable game. You could pick up one booster pack, you could sit down and play a game with somebody else. You'll have your champion and their 4 cards, they'll have their champion and their 4 cards. Then you have 2 other cards you can switch out if you wanted to try mixing stuff up, or you could trade cards between each other and see what happens. Or again, if each person bought a pack, then you'd have 2 different champions to choose from, potentially 3 because the critical cards can be anything. So it's a really neat idea. So then we also have booster boxes you can buy, which are just 24 packs. And then they have the starter set. So some people might just want to do this. Starter set has 3 tournament exclusive battle ready decks. So it's going to have 3 different characters that are specifically into their own layouts. They're 4 extra cards. Then including 5 additional cards, one of them being a Napoleon champion. Now the starter sets are set. So if you buy 3 starter sets, you're going to get the 3 battle packs are all going to be the exact same. Napoleon's going to be in all 3. The other 4 cards can be random. So if you do buy multiple, you could still get a few new random cards, but you're going to get a lot of the same thing. You're also going to get 2 elemental rift dice, which they just show regular dice, but they're going to be upgraded dice in here. Starter playmat, and a rulebook, of course. So if you don't know how to play the game, it's a great way to start. So one thing that might be questioned is like, but what if I get duplicate characters, or why would I buy multiple starters? And the reason is because deck building, in a sense. Although you only have 5 cards in each of your decks, it's nice that way you could be able to play if you're playing with multiple people, or you want to build multiple different decks. You don't have to keep pulling your cards apart and pulling them out of here. I know it's only a little 5-card stacks, but it can make the difference. And then there are some cards and characters that let you use multiple of the same thing. So just as a quick example here, we see the main samurai Bushido guy on here. This is Miyamoto Musashi. He actually has the ability to use 2 weapons in his decks, and therefore, if you buy multiple starter decks, you can get his weapon twice. Or if you buy different booster packs, and let's say you get let's just say, for example, you get Kublai Khan, and you get like a polearm with him, right? Or you get like a saber with him, right? Because that'd be a one-handed weapon for Miyamoto. And then now you pull a second pack later on, you get a second Kublai Khan, but you get that same sword. Great, so now I have 2 copies of those swords, so I can use them with him if I want to. So I have 2 copies to use. Or again, you can even just, if you get duplicate copies, you can then have one with this warrior, and you can have the same champion, and you can make 3 different decks with them if you wanted, using all the different cards without having to necessarily dismantle the other characters' decks in case you want to play their standard ones. You could have like their proper loadout, how they're designed, and then you could have like a bunch of custom decks, so if you wanted to play their characters. So yeah, some very cool stuff you can do there. Eventually I'm sure people will come up with like drafting rules and various other things like that, which is why having multiple cards isn't going to be a bad thing. So it's a little good and bad compared to the old ones. So yes, the original ones are nice because if there were 10 different warrior sets per every deck or every set, 2 of them were in the starter set. One of them was a promotional one, which is really hard, which is kind of a pain to get. So they're not going to hopefully get. They will have promo cards, but they're not going to have it part of the set number. But then the other 7 warriors were just in single booster packs that you picked up. So you could always pick up exactly what you wanted, which is nice because you weren't getting a bunch of duplicates if you didn't want them. But I also kind of say that's a downside because the 2 reasons would be, one, is that it actually costs a lot more to have decks specifically like that because it took up extra shelf space to have certain characters, and if nobody was buying that character, then you just had a pile of that character or a couple of characters sitting on the deck or on the shelves, and they weren't restocking them because like, hey, this isn't selling, why would we restock it? The other thing is because when you know exactly what you're getting and you avoid certain characters or certain cultures, maybe you're like, I don't care about the Romans, or I don't care about the Persians, or I'm going to skip the Mongolian set. You're not getting to see them extra cool cards, and maybe there's something in there that might have been really fun to play as, but since you didn't buy it, you don't even have access to it. So I do kind of like the booster pack for that reason, because then you're going to come across stuff you might not have normally looked at. You might be like, oh, I have this, let me try it out. Alright, so that's right. They also have on the Kickstarter, they have bigger tiers you can buy where you can get like starter sets with some packs, multiple booster boxes, starters with booster boxes, a bunch of stuff. You can go look on the Kickstarter and see what that is. I just wanted to list the basic stuff. So just a quick, what is the game and how do we kind of go through it. So each champion is going to have just a couple of quick things on here. I'm not going to get too in-depth on this, but along the top rows you have the initiative. This basically is just going to let you decide each round who gets to play first. Every card has one of these. Highest number goes first. And then you have a life total. If your life total hits 0, you lose the game. They have a lightning bolt there, which is your agility, which is your action cost. This is how many different actions each warrior can take. So these are going to be different numbers. So it's not like some games like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh! Where everyone has the exact same hit points every turn. And not every single character can necessarily do the exact same thing. And, some characters might be able to do 3, some might be able to do 4. We'll see. If the grid in the middle is going to show where your warrior can attack with the red arrow being the direction they're facing. We're kind of getting more on that in just a minute. Then we have a little spike ball, which is your damage. So if this Miyamoto does a basic attack, he does 1 damage. And it's a defense value. His is currently 0. Most warriors will be 0, but some guys might have armor on, which might make them a little bit more sturdy. And then they have element, which we'll talk about a little bit more later too. But that just has some things that reflect certain characters, champions, and various cards that say, if you have the water element or the fire element, you get this bonus or do this. And then you have obviously the picture. And below the picture, you have a bunch of words. The first word is always going to be the type of card, whether it's a champion, weapon, armor, inspiration, or a special card. The next 2 keywords on there will always be a region and a culture. So a region is where in the world they are. Asia, Europe, probably like North America. We haven't seen all of them yet. Like the Middle Eastern areas, Mesopotamia. And then the next one will be the culture, so drop it down. So in Asia, we could have Japanese, Chinese. In Europe, we could have French and Spanish, for example. And then the last keyword is going to be, for all the champions, is going to be a color. And that's going to determine what kind of rift, the time rift they came through, which will trigger certain other cards. It might say if you have a blue character or a white or a yellow character, a green character. It's just another keyword for you to trigger off of. Then all the other stuff we'll see in just a minute. We'll have keywords like weapons. We'll have like maybe what hand they are or what type of armor they are, or the weight of them. And again, it's all just going to trigger off of various stuff. And then on the bottom we have an ability. Every warrior is going to have their own ability. Every card is going to have their own ability. So if I flip to the next card, we have a weapon. Weapon's going to look kind of similar to your champion. It's going to have an initiative cost, and it's going to have a coin cost. This is how many actions it requires to take. So normally if you're taking an action, it costs 1. This specific weapon costs 1. Some might cost more, some might be free. It just might depend on your type of weapon. And that's just so you know, basically the kind of more powerful the weapon is, it might cost you more to use it. So you can't use a bunch of other actions too. But you only get to use 1 attack per turn anyhow with a weapon, because then you have to deplete it, turn it sideways, so you can't use it. Then again, it has the middle showing its attack range. So Miyamoto can attack in these 4 spots there, the +0s and the +1s. But if he's using his weapon here, he can attack in those other 3. So it does give him a couple other different spots he can attack in. But it also does 2 damage. It's a little bit more powerful thing. At the bottom there you see weapon, Asia, Japanese, and it's listed as specifically a sword, because there might be different weapons. And then the bottom corner has a body requirement, so it says it's a 1-handed weapon. There might be 2-handed weapons, armor, and this is also a show up, like I'm carrying a 2-handed giant axe. I can't also be carrying a shield. I can't be using 3 hands worth of weapons. So it's also going to kind of work with deck building in that sense too. Then he has a special ability on there. So we'll look at each individual card more. Then the last 3 types of cards are armor, inspiration, special, which all kind of more look like this. Initiative, element, might have a body requirement for armor. The other 2 don't. But that's going to have some other keywords and stuff on there as well. So this is the idea of how the game is going to look when you're playing it. So you win, having the most life after 4 rounds, or you defeat your opponent. If you happen to defeat them on turn 2 or 3 somehow, you win the game immediately. Each round you reveal your next support card. So at the very top of the bottom are your support cards. They start all face down. So this is what makes the game very interesting is beginning of the game, each player doesn't know what the other opponent's going to have. And then you preset your cards. So then as you play through the game, you might reveal a weapon, then an armor, then an inspiration, and a special. But then the next time you play that exact same warrior and the exact same cards, you could start with your armor, do your inspiration next, do your weapon third, do your whatever the last card was, your special, your inspiration, your special last. You can do them in different orders, and it might make a difference, just because it might depend on who you're fighting against, if you knew ahead of time, or just, hey, you found out it works better for you to have a weapon out quicker with this guy, or maybe they need your armor first. So you can kind of play around with that. So it can make, even the same 4 cards on the bottom can be played in a bunch of different ways. This can change up just how the game is going to work. So each champion, during your turn, you flip over that first card, and that's going to have the initiative, whichever is higher. So if we look at the very first card on the left of the bottom side, it's a green card that has 6. And on the top right of the other side, just gray card, which has 7. So that means the 7 card would go first. So the top player would have went first. Then the next round, top player at a 5 versus a 4, they would have went first. But then it would have went the other direction. Would have went 7 to 6, or 7 to 4, and then would have went back to 5 to 6. So most of the time, the top player would have went first. But again, rearranging these cards might make a difference too. Having your weapon first might be great, but you might not get to attack first. So there's kind of that little strategic element there. Each champion uses points to move around the board. So you can use 1 point to move 1 space, and you can freely rotate your character. Because again, which way that arrow makes a difference. So where Spartacus here in the gray, underneath that 1 heart, is turned facing the right side of the board. That's because that's the direction he wants to attack. So now his little grid would line up with those spaces in front. Although Miyamoto, he does have, he's spacing up, he does have a number spot to the left of him. So if I flip back to him, to the exact left to his arrow, he had a spot. So he can still attack Spartacus from this spot. But if we do flip back to that number, he gets a +0, so he gets no bonus. If he rotates his character using an action point, he'll be able to attack with a +1, which will give him a better chance of hitting. So that's going to make a difference too. So you can also use a point to just rotate a champion. Or you can use a base attack or a attack card revealed. So if you have your weapon revealed, you can attack with it. Otherwise, you can do your base attack. Base attacks can be done infinitely. So if you have 4 points and you're standing in front of the guy, you can just attack them 4 times straight away. Whether your base attack is going to hit each time, it might depend on whether they have armor or special abilities or what you have. Otherwise, yeah, you can do that. And then you also have active abilities on cards. So some cards might say, do this, spend an action point. You can do that as well. And just to kind of flip back, we did see on the kimono here, it says jump, spend 1 action point to do that. So you can spend a point to do that to get a special movement. So that's the basic of how it's doing. You're going to move your character around the board, so it kind of becomes a little board game, like almost miniature, but you have like a card instead. You move your character around this battle grid to try and attack your opponent, and then you flip your cards to have strategies. So really cool. Alright, then we'll look at card previews. Again, I said nothing is 100% final until the game is shipped and anything could change. They have shown us previews. Most of them are for the starter set. So I would assume most of them are completely good. There are a couple I do show that are in black and white. I found from a rulebook, which might not be the current or most updated rulebook. And then some of them, they might have just, maybe I saw a preview from an early how to play video or whatever, and maybe they're going to adjust them before the game comes out based on, a lot of stuff could happen based on just playtesting at Gen Con stuff they tried, or feedback from Kickstarter and Discord community. They might change some aspects of cards, and maybe they found something that's broken. Maybe people that have played a kind of Anachronism know, like, hey, yeah, I know this combo here you have with this guy could be broken if combined with this. So I'm not promising anything, but let's take a look what we got. So here we have Miyamoto Musashi. So we kind of looked at his stuff. He has 9 health, he has 4 action. Um, his skill says, this champion may use 2 one-handed sword cards this game. So he's already breaking the rules, because normally you can only have 1 of each card type. So he can switch out 1 of his other cards, but that means if he switches out his armor, he doesn't have armor for the game. But he has 2 attacks. Switches out his deity, or his inspiration, he doesn't have that. Switches out his special, he doesn't have that. So it's kind of a fun way to break the game. It says, whenever an enemy hits this champion with a weapon, move 1 space. Then this champion gains +1 attack on their next attack this round. So if he gets smacked, with someone, he actually, if an enemy hits us with a weapon, it has to be a weapon, not a basic attack, he gets to move, so he kind of just to reposition himself to be able to attack a little bit better. So that's kind of fun. He could like move down, kind of get closer, even if he wants to then maybe try and get around the guy. So then that way he has to spend an extra turn to rotate the next turn, which means 1 less action he can use. That could be helpful. His weapon, I apologize for cards being blurry. Again, this is where I could grab off the internet. We have the Boken, which we kind of looked at before. It's a wooden sword. So it says 2 Boken may be used in this game. Whenever this champion attacks and misses with this weapon, make a free base attack against the defender. So this is again a card that breaks the standard rules. So even if you're using Miyamoto's ability to have 2 one-handed sword cards, you can't typically have 2 of the exact same swords. But here's letting you break that rule. So it's letting you have 2 cards of the same name. So if you have 2 Bokens in play, it says whenever a champion attacks and misses with this weapon, make a free base attack. So it may not be the most powerful weapon, has a really low initiative value, but when you try and hit with it, if you miss, you get a free base attack. But the thing is you have to keep in mind, though, is that I think his base attack has to be able to hit in one of those spots that Miyamoto can hit. So that should be from his right above him, or to his left of him. Like if he's in any of the other spaces, he won't be able to hit. But definitely that is kind of a neat mechanic, though. Because then if you have 2 of them out, basically every turn you could either hit with your 2 damage sword, or if you miss, you at least get 2 free one-shot attacks. So you could potentially do between 2 damage or maybe 4 damage, depending on how well you do it. Up next, we have the kimono, which is his armor. Which is listed as light, so there might be keywords that mention light stuff. But he has jump. So spend 1 action, move 1 space diagonally. So right here, he already breaks the movement ability. So right here, Miyamoto's starter set card is breaking game rules right off the bat. So yeah, he's breaking the game rules by letting you move diagonally. So this will let him position himself more. And if you combine that with his regular ability where he can move, if you have the kimono out, like you play that first and then he gets hit with an attack, now he can move diagonal and he has a lot more options of where to move from. So that's pretty cool. Then we have his other 2 cards. Now you're going to notice these are different elements. This is fun because not every character always has the same elements, and that's going to make a difference as well as swapping out different elements. You might want a pure water character, so you might swap these with another character's cards just to have pure water. So he has Musha Shugo. And sorry if I butcher these pronunciations. It's an inspiration and it's an event. So inspirations could be lots of different stuff. They could be events. They could be ideals. They could be quests. Again, just extra keywords to play stuff. And this is upon revealing it. So at the beginning of the round, when you reveal this card, attacking champion gains +1 attack value and deals 1 additional damage until the end of the round. So this is probably not going to be a card you're going to have on your first turn, just because you're probably not going to be in position to attack someone. You might want to wait till after you have your weapon, or you might just use it second round, just after you can use all 4 of your movement abilities to get right up next to them. And then next turn, hopefully the opponent hasn't moved out of the way, and you can get that +1 extra attack value and deal 1 additional damage. What does extra attack value mean? It means when you roll your 2 dice to attack, and the opponent rolls 2 defense, and the higher number wins. This will add 1 to that damage. So if I roll a 6 and my opponent rolled also roll a 6, I'd have +1, so now I'd be up to a 7. But then if I'm doing a basic attack, I do 2 damage. If I was using my Bokens, I would do 3 damage. So yeah, very, very cool ability there, depending on when you play. You gotta save it till the end as well. Then we have Goring No Show, which is a special card, which this thing's a tome, but again, they could be just about anything else. It also has a reveal ability. It says, all water and wood champions move 1 space. All non-water, non-wood champions lose 2 attack value until the end of this round. So, here's an interesting thing, though. Miyamoto's a water character, so when this reveals, you get 1 free movement space. Again, combined with when you play this versus when you have Kimono out, you could move diagonally, or you could have this go second, right? Or your first one that revealed, and then you could get an extra movement, get closer, then have Mushu go second, and have the extra damage right off the bat before you even play your weapon or armor. And then all non-wooden champions lose 2 attack value until the end of the round. So if you play first, which hopefully this is the whole thing, is if you play first and has 6, you gain an extra bonus. It could shut down your opponent depending on what they're playing. On the other hand, though, this could also benefit your opponent if they're playing a water or a wood champion. Or if you happen to play this on when, for some reason, you put this on your water or wood champion, hoping to stop theirs and hope it doesn't affect you. So there's a little bit of leeway there in what you can do. But it says till the end of the round, a round happens after both players have went. So having the 6 initiative is great, right? But let's say if you're playing Miyamoto versus Miyamoto and your opponent played the kimono at the same time you played this, but you go second, so them losing 2 attack till the end of the round wouldn't mean anything. So that's where initiative kind of makes a difference. You might have to be like, if weapons tend to have low initiative, you might want to play it quicker to be against their low initiative weapons, hoping, but that's where it's a little bit of a mental game. Alright, so our next starter character is Spartacus. From Europe, he's a gladiator, and silver. So now we have gladiator instead of Japanese, or like you see some of the other cards are Roman. Yeah, it's kind of like, it's an interesting idea, because it's not always so like, because technically he would be from Sparta, like instead of Japan or that, but he's not. He's it's a little bit different. You can see he has 10 health, he has 4 actions, and 1, but he has a little bit less initiative than Miyamoto. But his attack line goes straight across the front. He only wants to attack directly what's in front of him. But he has gain 1 base attack if there's a real sword card in this champion's loadout. Gain 1 defense value if the champion has revealed a shield card in their loadout. So basically, the quicker he reveals his sword or a shield card, which your armor does not have to be a sword or a shield, and your weapon does not have to be a sword. As we can obviously see with the next 2 cards, we have a weapon that's not a sword, and we have a armor that's not a shield. So he doesn't gain a bonus from either of his next 2 cards, which is a very interesting thing. But then that's what makes the gameplay thing really interesting. But then that only happens when they're loadout. So if they come first or second, you can gain bonuses quicker. But if they're the last card, he can maybe gain the bonuses at the end, maybe protect them at the end. His weapon he comes with is Roman and utility cards. So he has Kulina Culturo. So it's like he's fighting with silverware. So this costs 1. You can see it has a little bit different attack, but it does 2 damage. It says gain +1 weapon attack die as long as this champion has moved this round before attacking with this weapon. So this is kind of a neat idea too, because this just promotes you not just to stand there. Oh, I'm standing in front of the opponent. I'm just going to spend my 4 actions just to wail on him each time. It might be more beneficial if you just spend 2 actions to move to the side of him, and then this is your 3rd action to attack, because now you get +1 attack value. So very cool. So that could be a difference there too. And now imagine if you even combined this with, we flip back over here with kimono, right? And now you can move diagonal. So he can move diagonal. So if you gave Spartacus this armor, and he moves diagonal, and then you'd only have to, and you get your free rotate, he wouldn't have to spend 2 points. You have to spend 1 movement point to get to the side of him. So there's a kind of crossover there. Up next we have the Cassius Chrysia, which is the helmet there, the helm, which is a medium weight. It says reroll. Adjust one of the champion's defense dice to 4. So you get a chance to reroll one of your defense dice to 4 no matter what. So not 5 or 6, but it's definitely better than a 1 or 2. So he kind of has a built-in mid-defense, which is kind of nice. You can always do that. So cool. Let's jump to his second one. So we have Scuttum, which I don't have the actual card. This is from the rulebook. It's a special Europe Roman shield. Now this is a special card. It's a shield. So now this is going to trigger his shield ability. Gives him +1 defense value. It says once per round when there's a champion, whenever a champion moves into a space in this metal champion's base attack grid, deplete this card and deal 1 damage to that champion. So if your opponent moves in front of Spartacus, you can exhaust this card, turn it sideways to deal 1 damage. But it has to be a metal champion, so this wouldn't work if we threw this on Miyamoto because he's water. So it's kind of fun. We get so like, yeah, right now out of that set, this isn't gonna, not every card is gonna immediately help every single character, but some will be better than others. But yeah, so if we gave Spartacus this, he could reveal this first, and that way every time the opponent walks in front of you, they're going to gain 1 damage. And then you get +1 defense, because he has a shield. So he's going to avoid 1 attack. And then if you put the helmet second, that means for rounds 2, 3, and 4, every time he defends, he's going to have basically a 5 defense, no matter what. So your opponent always has to roll at least 5 or higher, minimum, because you get to roll a second dice too. So like bottom there would be a 1, so you have a minimum of 6 every single time. So that's actually pretty cool. So that makes them really hard to take damage. And if they walk in front of you, they're going to take a point of damage. So some cool stuff there. And then his last card is Libertas, which is an inspiration, which is a divinity. I know in the original Anachronism, lots of the Roman inspirations were the gods. They were like Apollo, Mercury, Pluto. So it's kind of interesting they went a little different route with this. But it has a combo. It says spend 1 action, move 1 space to make a base attack against each adjacent enemy. So a couple of cool things to note there. So it says, this is a combo, so you just spend a point to do multiple things, which is really fun. There's a couple of the keywords, and we'll look at some of them a little bit later. Which says, move 1 space and make a base attack. So, right, he wants to definitely get around and move stuff so he can make stuff. And if he has a sword, he gets also +1 to his base attack. If he has a sword revealed. So if you swap out one of these other cards for a sword, you can do some extra damage with this. And it also says against each adjacent enemy. This could be for 2 reasons. One, eventually if you decide to figure out how to play a multiplayer format, which I don't think is initially planned, but people homebrew stuff. Also, there are cards that will let you put minions or other characters into play to fight for you. So you might have multiple guys you have to fight. So yeah, this definitely has a neat way of adding in some of that cool aspect as well. So very cool. Alright, our third character we have is Kahulalan, who's a champion from Asia, from the Mongol culture, who has the brown type. So I didn't mention that Spartacus has silver from the realm. We haven't seen anything to reference those so far, but we will. So we only have these other 2 cards showing for Kahulalan right now, but 10 health, 4 actions, 1 attack, but 1 defense. There's a built-in defense point. Enemies must spend 1 additional attack action to move out of spaces with the champion's base attack grid. So if they're anywhere in that +1, +1, or 0, they have to spend an extra point to get out of their way. So, like, Spartacus wants to be in front of you, right? So Spartacus gets in front of you, but if he needs to retreat, he's going to have to spend more actions to do it. So it kind of penalizing him. Once per game, if this champion has revealed any cavalry cards Move an enemy into a space adjacent to this champion. So yeah, we have a cavalry card, which we'll see one of those later. You can move to an enemy space adjacent. Move an enemy into a space adjacent to this card. So you can like bring them next to you, so now they can't get away. Interesting though that it moves an enemy into their space and not moves you into their space, but that might be 100% just to watch out for things like Scud'em here, so that way you don't take damage. The weapon they have is the Kahuga. Again, I'm probably butchering these names. It's a 1 cost, does 2 damage, but has a little bit different attack range on there. Weapon, Asia, Mongol, and Dagger. As long as this champion has revealed an earth or metal cavalry card, this weapon deals 1 additional damage. So, by itself, it doesn't do anything, but you have to reveal a cavalry card, but it also has to be earth or metal. So it's going to limit it a little bit more. But the fact is, some cards are probably going to be very useful, especially when your champion there gets bonuses from having cavalry. And then the last one we have there for is Zogog, which is an armor, which is a light armor. It says react. Whenever an enemy makes a base attack against this champion, they gain +1 defense value to the end of the round. So as long as you have this out, every time they do a base attack against you, you get an extra defense. And just remember is that a base attack just costs 1 action point. They can do it as many times as they want. They can't do that with weapons, which are usually more powerful. So if you have this out, he already has a built-in 2 defense. So that means your opponent has to roll at least 2 higher than you every time, just to tie you. So that's pretty cool. Again, this could be added to any other character as well, to help make them a little bit better, if you'd like. Alright, so then we have some other cards that weren't part of the initial 3. We mentioned earlier Napoleon Bonaparte was part of the starter set. He's like another built-in champion that doesn't have cards specified for him. But he has 5 health, so you're like, wait a minute, this guy has 10, this guy has 10, this guy has 9, why does he only have 5? Because of his ability. But he has 5 action points. Also note that in his action bar, he has minuses. So this is when you roll your dice. If they're in there and they have the +1, you get an additional 1. So if you rolled a 5, now it's 6. If they have the -1, they do less damage, but you can still attack there. It's not their best way to attack, but at least it's an option. She's a champion from Europe who's ranking as the Yellow Rift. Now, this is the first time we're noticing the Rift color does not match the border of the card. So that can be a little bit confusing, but since it's only going to be played if a card specifies the color, otherwise they're talking about the element, hopefully it won't be too much of a difficulty. But he has a special effect here. It says, deploy. At the start of each round, not game, each round, place up to 3 unrevealed loadout cards adjacent to this champion as 1 life, 1 damage, 0 defense minions. Spend action cards to move them and attack them using the champion's base attack grid. So basically what he can do is he could start the first round of the game. He could start of the round before he does anything else. He could place 3 of his 4 unrevealed loadout cards on the game and have 3 extra characters out. They can run around, do extra damage, and attack. And now you have to worry about taking damage from multiple sides, dealing with multiple characters to take out. Yeah, it's only 1 life to take them out, so you just hit them and they're defeated with even a basic attack. But that means you have to focus on taking them out instead of taking out Napoleon. So it's kind of a neat idea. And the thing is, the thing is, it says unrevealed loadout. So that means you can play at the end and just reveal your last one. It's throwing a 1 guy out to help you. At the beginning and have 3 guys, but then you only have 1 other loadout card. So that means now you're going to go second every turn after that because you don't have any initiative. And you don't have any extra abilities. But it's kind of a fun little mechanic to play around with. Because your opponent doesn't know if they see him. They don't know if you're going to summon 3 guys, 2 guys, 1 guy each turn for a couple of turns, and you just sacrifice stuff slowly. So very neat. Alright, then we're going to start looking at some of the cards that are considered chrono cards. So these, they might not be. These might be listed with other characters. We don't know. They might be in their logos. Chrono cards can be characters that aren't like Napoleon, that don't have a special logo and have cards that specifically go with them. These are just other ones that were revealed. So we have the Wakizashi. So this is a weapon from Japan. So this could be definitely fitting Miyamoto's deck. Does 1 damage, but has a pretty decent attack grid. It says whenever this champion is hit by a weapon attack, make a free attack with this weapon against the attacker. So yeah, if you get hit, you get a free weapon attack. Now I just want to flip back quick. So if you look at the Boken, it says whenever the champion attacks and misses, you get a free base attack. So you can keep attacking with your Boken and get a free base attack. With Miyamoto's ability, you can have a second one-handed sword in there, so you could throw the other one in there. And then what you could do is you could have, so basically if you attack and you miss with your Boken, you get a base attack, and then if you get hit and you have this one, you get a free attack. So you're kind of like, I miss my attacks, I get a secondary attack. I get hurt, I get a secondary attack. And this could work with some of the other guys as well. Like, Spartacus here uses base attack, and there's a revealed sword, so you could use that as a sword. Which could definitely help him out. Yeah, so some really neat stuff you can do. Play around mixing these things around a little bit. Here we have 2 more ones. So we have Occam's Razor. It says Inspiration Europe, Britain, and Ideology. So reveal, ignore all other card effects, attack and defense modifications, and set all attack grid values to 0 until the end of the round. So whenever this comes up, it sets everything to nothing, so it ignores everybody else's stuff. So this is actually great for this card to go second, because then it shuts down whatever your opponent just revealed during their turn. So if they revealed something new that like gives them extra defense, or they revealed that sword, it says, hey, if they take damage, now they get to do a free attack against you. Well, now this turn they don't get to do that. So that's definitely a neat little card to add in there. And then we have Arabian. Special Middle East, Mesopotamian, and Cavalry. So we have a Cavalry card, but it's not part of the Mongol set, but it could be mixed in. Whenever this champion wins initiative, move 1 space to the start of this cavalry's champion's turn. Whenever this champion loses initiative, gain 1 base attack value till the end of the turn. So the quicker you play this, the better it's going to be, but only if you're winning initiative. You can move around quicker. If you lose initiative, so you play this first, and then you play a bunch of low initiative cards, you can gain extra base attacks every turn. And if we jump back into Kahulalan, once per game, if it has a revealed cavalry card, you can move an empty enemy into your space. You can play that, and you can help move yourself around. You can move that. And then you can also use your weapon there to gain 1 additional damage while you have that out. And you can use it if you gain initiative. You can move, but this has a 5, so the turn this is revealed, you might not gain initiative, but it does 1 extra damage. Plus 1 extra, it only helps your base attack. But, you know, very, very interesting stuff there. You can kind of see what you're getting just with these couple of cards. These 3 were convention promo cards. So I don't know whether if you're in the Kickstarter, they might be available in there at some point as stretch goals. They haven't said or not. They did say there are some cards, but they haven't specified these for the Kickstarter stretch goals. But these might be ones you could pick up and get. So we have Legion de Horn from the inspiration from French. It's an honor. So it says, reveal, move the champion and all allies up to 1 space, gain 1 life. So imagine playing this with Napoleon, right? If we flip back to Napoleon, all of a sudden now he has 3 cards he can play. So his first round, he gets rid of all 3 of his cards. Keeps his first one, and his first card he plays is this. Reveals it. He gets a life if he needs it or not, or you can play it later on. But he can move all his allies. Also, now he can move 3 guys, and he can get quicker and do a lot more damage. So that's pretty cool. We have the Skjold. It's probably just pronounced Skjold. J is probably silent. Special Europe, Norse, and it's another shield. Reveal. This champion may rotate. At the start of this champion's turn, if this champion has revealed a one-handed metal or water weapon, deplete this card and move up to one space. So for initially, you can just rotate around, and then you can reveal this guy at the start of your turn. You can, if you have a weapon out, you can go ahead and move around. So what's really cool about this is I'm going to jump back to Spartacus here for a moment. If you have a revealed shield card, he gets +1 defense value. So hey, what shield would work really well with that, right? That'd work really great. He got his defense. He can rotate around, so that really helps with him trying to get in front of people. So if they got to the side of him, he gets a free rotate with his shield, plus he gets an extra defense. And then it said if they have a one-handed metal or water weapon, doesn't care if it's a sword or not. We have the Colina Cultural, which is a one-handed metal weapon. It gains +1 weapon attack as long as they have moved this round before attacking. Rotating, I believe, is technically considered moving, so that would work with that as well. But I might need clarification on that. But even still, when this at the start of the turn, if you have that, deplete this card, move one space. So it doesn't give you any extra bonuses to begin with, but that lets you move every turn as long as that's been revealed. And then with this, now you get that +1 weapon attack. So it's kind of cool. So it's not specified to him. He's a Roman character. Well, this is Norse, but they do work together really well. Then we have another champion we can look at is Oliver Levasseur, who's a pirate from Europe who has a gold rift instead of his color. So he has 10 health, 4 things. Now he is a very interesting battle Greek because he can attack behind him. So that's kind of neat. He has push. When this champion hits with a base attack, move the defender one space. So this kind of backs them away from him somewhere. And then reroll. As long as no enemies are adjacent to this champion, reroll this champion's attack die. So he is going to probably benefit from having gun weapons, which we haven't seen yet, or more ranged weapons. So that'll be definitely interesting to see. Alright, so we have some keywords here for the game. Sorry for the switch to bright colors. We have Combo, which is a powerful ability indicating the ability to find normal movement and attack patterns. We saw that. Spend 1 point, get extra attack, extra movement. Deploy, ability able to move a minion and terrain special cards on this. Now, minion and terrain. So we saw deploy with Napoleon. We might get terrain cards. I'm imagining some of these are going to be like maybe like the original Moray cards had totems and stuff they could place into the battlefield that they could kind of utilize. So I'm guessing we're going to see stuff like that. Disarm, a power ability that indicates the ability to affect an enemy weapon attack in the area. So this is going to probably shut down weapons. And power abilities means it's something you have to spend a point on usually. Dodge, a power ability indicating the ability to move during an enemy's turn. Fear, power ability indicating the ability to affect the enemy attack, defense, or maneuvering. So probably if they're within your sights or within this row or whatever, it might weaken them. Heal, power ability indicating the ability to give life or give life points. This could be healing your minions or allies. Jump, we've seen. Power ability indicating the ability to break normal movement patterns. So now jump, like we did see the one for Kimono, it's let you move diagonal. Doesn't mean every jump is going to be diagonal. We could have one that says, let you move 2 spaces forward, or 2 spaces to the left, or right. Like, right, it might let you hop over a space, which could let you get to the backside of an enemy. But remember, there's only so many spaces so you could jump into a wall. We have Poison, a power ability indicating something that causes slow loss of life, action, or other resources in the area. So this could be again, say my poison, they might lose a life each turn this card's out or been revealed. Could reduce their action points by 1 every turn. We have push and pull, so the ability to move an enemy. Generally, pulling is going to bring them towards you. Pushing is going to shove them away. Rage, a power ability indicating something that changes your champion's stats during the game, so probably a boost. Or if we have like fear is going to like weaken someone. Rage is probably going to give them extra things, usually probably if they go an attack. We have React, power ability in case something that allows your champion to take actions during an enemy's turn, which we did see. Save, power ability indicating a champion may carry a resource over to another round. So this could be very interesting to see how that works. And then support, power ability indicating a champion may share a resource or card effects with champions or allies in the area. So this could be a way to like boost up your allies. So like maybe this might be something helpful from Napoleon, like give all allies +1 attack or something. So very cool. Now this is just a sampling of all the keywords. There might be more added. There are other terminologies I didn't look into, like reroll or spending points and all this. These are just the bolded ones I saw in the rulebook. And then the element icons. I kind of want to look at this a little bit. Each card aligns with an element that defines and synergizes a particular fighting style. Interactions may occur between cards based off their element alignments. Cards of the same element may enhance each other or even require another one to function. So this is kind of the idea of what if you mix your colors, what you're looking for. So you might want to build your deck based on your region. Like all the Europe cards, they probably have little similar effects. Or maybe you want to go by culture, like all the Japanese cards might work together nice. You might just build it by element. That might definitely. You might build them by rift color. You might only build cards that have the blue rift, but that's just only on your champion. But, you know, kind of see what you're going for there. So, the other, which are like the purple colors, are inspiration, or sorry, might not be purple. I could be wrong on that color. So unfortunately, the rulebook was in black and white. So, inspiration and life masters. So guys are probably gonna like have really powerful inspirations, and then they're gonna like have good things for gaining life or manipulating life. Fire is gonna be attack and damage. Metal is gonna balance and do stuff with weapons. We saw that like boosting up your weapon abilities. Wood is gonna have higher initiatives and maybe grids, better grid styles. Maybe not a lot of bonuses on them, or maybe high bonuses but few spaces to attack. Who knows? Earth or the mountains are going to be defense and arena masters, so kind of moving around, protecting yourself. Water is going to have movement and loadouts, so they're going to have. We saw it out the blue one already. We have like Komodo lets you move around. The loadouts just let you break the rules to have different cards in there, and then the void are going to be dice and crit masters. So we kind of flip back. We did see the pirate here is Void, who had purple, like a bluish purple, dark purple. And then the Legion was the Void, which gained us life. We saw that. And then like the Arabian was the movement around, defense, fire, obviously has lots of doing damage. So yeah, some very cool stuff there as well. Alright, so in this part, I want to kind of compare the original Anachronism to the Time Rift to kind of see what the difference is. If somebody's like, oh, but I have the old game. Can I play with it? Can I mix and match the cards? Not really, because they change. I'm going to say not. Like most 2.0 type games, I would say, or second edition, which is sort of what this is you can't just immediately grab one set and one booster pack and one Anachronism booster pack and mix them together, because there's going to be a couple of different things in there. Could you house rule stuff to get it to work? Absolutely. So here are a couple of differences in the games. This is not every single instance. This is just some of the big ones. So turn changes. Warriors are now champions. Same thing. Speed is now action points. I think actually they called it what they call it at the beginning. I'm not going to flip back, but it wasn't called actions. But it used to be called speed. It had like a foot icon instead of a lightning bolt. The original ones had experience numbers, which they got rid of completely. The experience was generally used for breaking ties. There's very few cards that maybe used it for special effects, but most of the time it was if you rolled 2 dice and there were a tie, or you both played the exact same, initiative number, then the experience number broke that. It wasn't, I think, utilized enough for that fact, or when it was, it's because someone was just like, oh, I'm going to play, I love the characters that have high experience. And I think that kind of broke some of the other cards, because the high experience, basically guaranteed them more winning opportunities. They also removed the gender. So in the key lines, they have like you have a warrior or a champion, or regions and stuff. They used to have gender between male and female. And they kind of just got rid of this. I think kind of a twofold. One, the whole politically correctness thing. Just trying to get away from that, because someone might also argue whether this person was or wasn't that. So it's just easier to avoid that altogether. So I think they got rid of the genders. Also, just because there was such limited uses of what you could do. Like, right, obviously you could argue anything with the keywords, but if you're talking about like cultures, Japanese, Chinese, Native American, Mongol, Europe, even if you go regions again, and you have Europe, it's the next thing I've listed, added regions in there, because those weren't in the original game. You have Europe, Asia, Middle Eastern, Americas, whatever. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 different things you can do where genders, there was male, female. So there wasn't really a whole lot of cards that could play into that. And then for just kind of the sake of like what they could do was like, do you have a male card be better than a female card or what? The only time I ever thought it was an interesting thing was on the Mulan card because it listed as a male female because that's the whole story of Mulan. So that was kind of a neat little thing there, but then again, that even to a sense, that kind of made her a little bit better than other characters if you had any card that specified it. So I understand why they got rid of that. And then Champions added the Rift color, which you could say in a sense kind of just adds another thing they can play around with, because now you can have something that says, this does something if you have a blue character, or a silver character, or a gold, or red, or yellow, and it just adds how many other colors they want. If they have 10 different colors out there, if they have 5 different colors, so, you just have more keywords to play with. So, besides your card type, you have your regions, you have your cultures, you have for champions, you have your color, which adds, basically just replacing the male, female in there. And then all the other cards have, like, their different stuff, cavalry, inspiration, one-handed sword, two-handed sword, light armor, medium armor, all those different things to add in there. Another new thing they added was champions have the starting defense points. Originally, no champion had that unless there was a special ability. So this is the kind of thing. And again, we just saw not every single one has it, but it's at least an option that they can add in. It's just another thing they can play around with. So kind of just a little bit difference in here is the loadouts of a champion. You must have a weapon, armor, inspiration, and special. Some cards allow this to be broken, such as like we had Miyamoto had the ability, or the Boken lets you play a second one. But typically you have to have one of the 4. This is a big change from the original Anachronism game. In the original Anachronism, you have to have a champion and then 4 cards. It didn't matter what culture they were from. It didn't matter what they were. You could have 4 weapons if you wanted. And then you could attack with a weapon each turn if you had enough points to spend it. You could have 4 shields. You could have 4 inspirations. You could have 2 weapons, 2 inspirations, 2 weapons, 2 armors. It didn't matter. The only restriction was you couldn't have cards of the same name unless they had a rule like Boken, which lets you play 2 of the exact same cards. So I'm not sure why they changed, if they changed it just for balance reason, so that way people couldn't find just have I have 4 attacks, I'm just going to attack, and not do anything else, and forcing people to play with the other 3 types of cards might just make the game more interesting, more balanced. Not really sure. But it's interesting because it might balance it in that sense, but then it also limits to what you can do. Now again, if you're just playing casual at home and you're not playing a tournament, you can always break that rule and do whatever you want. So that's always your option as well. Weapons now have action costs instead of just 1 action. So previously in Anachronism, it cost 1 action point to attack with a weapon, and that's all you could do it for. You didn't deplete cards, you didn't turn them sideways. They do this now so you know that it's been used. It's just kind of more of a modern game thing. But there was just you used your weapon, you were done. Here they just have it as more of a visual as well. But now they have the points up there. So we only saw 1 cost weapons, but there definitely might be 2, 3 cost weapons. I doubt there's going to be any 4, but maybe. But I imagine if it was a 4 cost weapon, it's probably going to like destroy the weapon or something. And then up next, cards may be completed. Turn side will show uses and refreshed at the start of the round. So there are going to be some things like it might be once per game effects. But anything that has an action that you use it, then you deplete it generally, so that way you know it's been used. You just, again, visually know you haven't been used it. The original game didn't really have anything that said to do that. You were just kind of supposed to remember. And then this is kind of a little bit different. This play through 4 rounds. The original play a 5th round with the experience decided who started. Since they got rid of experience, they don't have that. So normally you play your champion or your warrior out first, and then you have round 1, 2, 3, 4 for each of your cards, and then you play one final round to just see if anyone can damage each other without having any special cards coming into play. Utilizing everything. So it gave your last card 1 extra turn to be used. So they got rid of that, so I'm not really sure why, but who knows. Also, the last thing in here, a big change, which is the next thing we're going to kind of look at, is all cards are fully in English and not having names, keywords in native language. The exception is if you're buying the game in a non-English language, then the cards will be there. So if you buy it in Spanish or German or French or whatever other languages they eventually print the game in, then all the text will be in those languages translated. But what I mean is, we'll look at these next cards, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So this is the original Anachronism cards, and we had cards like Catherine the Great here, our first one. You can see how they have all your symbols on the bottom, say your heart, which is 8, your life, her speed, her action points, which are 3, but then she had 5 experience and she had 1 damage. So basically they just got rid of the experience and added in a thing. And then her action grade was up at the top. I kind of like the stuff up at the top, like in the new ones. I think it's, although it does just take away from that border a little bit, it does also make your text box a little bit bigger. But you had, it says rushing, warrior, and female. So we kind of had that. But now you see right below that, it has her keyword, her first attack. They gave every attack or ability a special name. And they got rid of that in the new version, in the Time Rift. But it says, I'm going to butcher this terribly. It says, Diplomatia Oski via Masha El Estivo. Not even sure. And that's the thing. Is one hand, this is really a cool idea. To have like the native language mixed into the games. But on the other hand, nobody's going to sit there and try and pronounce this, especially in Russian, every time they play. They're not going to be like, I'm performing this attack. They're just going to be like, oh, I'm using this ability. And if we jump to the next card, here is we have the same exact thing. We have a champion, or a warrior, called Daskunka Wiko, who, if we go back to the very bottom of the card in the flavor text, is Crazy Horse. So people might know the Native American Crazy Horse. Oh yeah, I've heard of him. I went through history class, 8th grade history class. But they're not going to know their warrior names. So it's kind of cool that they had the original names for the characters, like some were just fine, like Spartacus and Miyamoto stayed the same. Some changed a little bit, like William Wallace has U's in there instead of W's, because that's just how they changed it. Some of the other characters, like some of the pirates, they had different names in their pirate names. But like lots of the more foreign stuff, like the Mori, the Persians, the Egyptians, some of them had names that just were just their warrior names you couldn't pronounce, because unless you knew that language, let alone the ability. So they just kind of went away from that because it was a neat idea, but it was hard to do it. Now, I would love, if they're making a timer, if they're doing alternate cards, I would love for a set of alternate cards with this language on them. That would be really cool, but that's, who knows if that'll happen. Yeah, because then again, his ability is, Kokohel Happen Ika Sing. So it's like, and they just got rid of that. It's just like, no, you don't need to read the special ability. They just put like the keywords are bolded instead. And I'm not worried about looking at their effects too much right now. Although there's some neat effects there. There's some stuff we'll get. So here's just another example of that. Here's two non-character cards. You have a Germanic card, which is Rustlinger Ramnischkinis Hippostroping. So yeah, it's like, imagine playing this card. I'm gonna flip it over. You're not gonna say the name. You're like, I'm playing this card, and your opponent's gonna be like, yeah, it's that card. Versus if they change this, and it might just be like, who knows? It might be like chainmail armor or something. I don't know. And again, some of these cards they did change. They're gonna change the names, and some of them they won't. Because some of them, that's what the thing was called in that culture. And that's what they need to keep calling it. They're not going to maybe try and translate it. So I can't say how they're doing all of them. I know for sure they're not going to do the ones in the bottom, which were just a little bit too much. So the other thing I did want to point out about some of these older cards is they have these backgrounds on here, which are supposed to kind of signify. So you can easily tell, like, all the Russian cards that have, like, this script in the background. All the Native Americans had, like, this, like, tankish background. They have their little symbols in the bottom as well. And like Germanic had like these leaves, and then the Mori had like a mask. And the idea is so you could quickly, just by looking at a card, glance and tell what culture they were from. And if we flip way back to like these, they have now, if you look at the special cards or the non-character weapon cards, they have like a symbol on them up in the top. And then if we even get into like some of these where you can see on the back, on Napoleon's on the bottom, you can see like a little watermark of the French symbol. The Japanese has the little leaf blossom there. They do have those symbols on there to kind of show what culture they were from. But they're not as quite as quick noticing. Like a brown card doesn't mean it's Mongolian necessarily. Green, because a green card is Mongolian too. So the color of the card doesn't dictate it. You have to look for those symbols. So that's one sort of downside. But I can also go in the defense of it because that's so much on the card. You also kind of, although it makes them look really cool and really fancy, it also is kind of a distraction on some of these cards as well. It's sometimes almost too much going on. But you know, that's always a preference here nor there. Like that'd be cool again if these were like they made a set of alternate arts that were fun like this. You could choose to include them, but that's what we got. All right. So then the last thing I kind of want to go through here is I want to compare the original cards to the new cards. And now, not every single card that I've previewed from the Time Rift do we have a counter for. They might have had an inspiration saying, oh, this card was kind of like this, but we changed it into this. I didn't look for that. I only look for ones that had the exact same games. But I wanted to just see kind of what the differences were, because they obviously took the inspiration from this game and just seen. So here we have Miyamoto Musashi. And so his attack grid changed a bunch. He went from kind of able to slash behind him to be more of a forward attacker. Kept the same life. He gained an extra point for movement. But he went from fire to water. So I think the Japanese characters were a lot of times more fire, more aggressive. And for more water, which is more of a passive thing. And then he has his ability, though, changed completely. So your next attack this turn deals +1 damage. So he does have the idea of that. Since whenever an enemy hits with a weapon, he gets +1 attack value. But it's 1 attack value, so it makes his attacks easier to hit. Whereas the original one, he just gave more damage. So, very interesting. They obviously took this character, but they changed completely what they do. We have the Boken. You see again, attack value change. The initiative changed a ton. The attack damage changed. Some of that stuff. So we have sword, one-handed, that stayed, but we have precision. So on your turn, you may reroll 1 die on an attack. So this helps you be able to attack a little bit better. It says parry may use 2 Boken cards in this game. So that one stayed the same. But yeah, the new one lets you, Time Rift version, lets you, if you miss an attack, you get a free base attack. Versus the other one, just basically get a second attack, you get a second try at your attack. So which one's better or worse for just the ability? if I hit, I get 2 damage with the new one, and then if I miss, I get a potential chance to do 1. Whereas the original one, I hit, I get 1 damage. If I'm basically missing, I can re-roll one of my 2 dice to hope to hit. So that most I'm ever going to do is 1 damage. So, interesting. Then we have the kimono, which again with the initiative values changed a ton on these. And it's just called torso armor. Unrestricted. Once per turn, after an opponent attacks you and misses, roll 2 dice. The total is less than your experience. You may move 1 space. So this lets you potentially move around, but it's based on that experience. So if that total is less than your experience, so again, if you play a really high experience character, you could use this pretty much every turn if your opponent misses with an attack. But it's also a very bad ability to an extent, because it's hoping your opponent misses for you to be able to do anything. And then if your opponent misses, you get a free move, awesome. But the fact is you have to hope that they miss and that you also roll dice. So like we'll look at his initial one is 8. So if I roll 2 dice, which is my highest 12, I have to roll at least I have to roll under 8. So it's potential, but you might miss it as well, and that's kind of a waste. Then the card just sits there and does nothing. But again, who knows how you pair that with other cards and other abilities and stuff like that. I also want to note that Miyamoto was also in the original starter deck as well. So it's kind of neat there. So we have the Musha Shugo. So we have the same card here again, same initiative, different elements. Was a quest and now it's an event. So it says, Shaoxing reveal. This round, all hits for all players are critical, and the other ones reveal all attacking champions gain plus 1 attack value and deal 1 additional damage till the end of the round. So both of them will affect both players. They kind of like are setting up like, hey, this is a duel. Like, what the other one gives you 1 additional damage and 1 extra attack. So regardless, you potentially are going to have a better chance of hitting more and doing extra damage. Where the original one gave crit. So I put the little keyword down there from the original instruction manual. It says critical hits says, critical hits have their base damage doubled before damage modifiers are applied. Card abilities may cause it to become considered critical. Otherwise, you could crit as well if you roll doubles and the attack hits. So I don't know if that's still a rule in the new one or not. I forgot to look that up. But the fact is the original one just makes all hits critical. So if you're using all your base attacks, that means everyone's going to do 2 damage, which is the same exact as what the updated one does. It deals 1 additional damage. But the difference is now if you're using a weapon that did 2 damage, the new one's only going to do 3 damage, where this one's going to do 4. Because it's going to double it all of it. If you happen to have a really good weapon that did 3 damage, you could be doing 6 damage in 1 turn. So you definitely see how that could definitely get way more overpowered. But the fact it also works for your opponent as well. And it's going to hit as long as it hits. It's interesting. Then the last one we have is the Goring No Show, which is still it's an item and now it's at home. But it says, hee-ho. Once per turn, you may make an attack roll. If you reduce the value of one of your dice by 1, the dice becomes doubles. This may result in a critical hit. So this basically allows you to work with your previous weapon, or your previous thing, to force extra, well, that would just give you critical hits. This lets you force critical hits around in the game. So yeah, interesting, right? So you could potentially try and get crits every turn if you roll right. But if you don't, then this card's kind of sitting around dead. Where the new one is reveal lets you move characters or lose attack. The up and down side of the new one is, again, it affects multiple characters. Could affect your opponent, might not affect your opponent on either side. Because if they're also a water or wood champion, they get a move. But if they are not a water champion, they lose 2 attack. But if they are one of those 2, then they don't lose the attack at all. So again, this could potentially, depending on what you're playing, do nothing for your opponent or not hurt your opponent. But interesting how some of these have changed. Then we have Spartacus, so our next champion. You can see his abilities, but he still attacks in front, but he gets minuses, so he doesn't really want to attack in the front. But he has 8 health and 3 actions. So they gave a little bit more actions to guys in this game. I think they wanted people to be able to move around more. But then he has roaming in there instead of just gladiator. It says Aris Gladiatoria takes 2 actions. If you have an inspiration in play, make an extra attack with one of your weapons. So this is a really neat idea, right? This is basically him getting to spend his extra actions to attack with one of my to make an extra attack with a weapon. So I can use 1 point to spend with 3 actions each turn, 3 speed. He could spend 1 to attack with a weapon, and spend his other 2 to attack a second time. Yes, he might have that negative modifier on there, but the fact he can attack with multiple weapons is really cool. Versus the new one says he just gets extra attack or defense if he has weapons. So it's kind of neat because it's more of like a combat-focused one where he's straight up in the middle of battle, he wants to be attacking, versus more of a strategic Spartacus. I did want to show this. There was a promo Spartacus called Spartacus of Thrace. Promo number 10, which I had. This is actually from my collection, some of these cards. So this one had 7 health and 3, but it says, Rebellious, your crits deal plus 2 damage instead of doubling the base damage. So this one instead gave him, again, a little bit more of an attack-oriented thing, but it worked a little bit better. If he could get crits, so his base attack, instead of doing, it was 1 damage, it'd be doubled to 2, now it does 3. Now, this wouldn't be as good as, again, if you're using a 2 or a 3 cost weapon, because instead of 2 doubling up to 4, it would still 2 plus 2 is 4. A 3 wouldn't double to 6, it would only be 5. So, but it helped boost up his basic attacks a little bit better. And then if you combine this crit thing with the, we flip back to this one to help, if you gave him this to help him get crits easier, he could be just critting with base attacks left and right. So it's kind of interesting, right? So cool, they have some differences in there. Then we have the Cassius, which became the Cassius Crica, which might just be the different styles of the helmet. It says your defense rolls gain +1 if you are a metal or water warrior. You gain +1 experience if you're an earth or fire warrior. So this is a thing where it boosted up the experience stat, which would then help winning some of them ties or some of the other things that maybe dealt with having a good experience, which we did see on this one. So if you gave them like this, if your total is less than your experience, you may move 1 space. Again, if you gave that combined with that helmet, you'd have a good chance of, I have 1 extra experience. You'd have a lot better chance of doing that. Now notice this Spartacus has 6 experience, where this has 3. So this one would not really like to do stuff with experience too much, where this one actually gains a benefit. And I think that might be the reason why they got rid of it, because it's just another number you gotta worry about. But this is definitely a cool card. It gave just a neat way to show you can gain bonuses to different characters. So if you're a metal or water, you're kind of a defensive character, you gain extra defense, but if you're earth or fire, you might gain extra experience, which might help you in combat. Versus the new one, just straight up gives you extra, a 4 on your defense. It doesn't give you a +1 on your defense, but it turns 1 to 4. So if you had a 3, it would be a 4, but if you rolled like a 5 or a 6, it's not as good. Cool. So then we have the Scudum. So it's this big giant tower shield. Says once per round after you make a successful attack, roll 2 dice. If that total is less than equal to your experience, move the defending warrior 1 space. So this is where, again, where experience plays in. They wanted to play around with your warrior has been in battle a bunch. They're more of an experienced battle as maybe opposed to like someone that got tossed into battle. Like they're in the thick of combat, a gladiator would be. So the idea is if you have higher experience, the total is less than or equal to your experience, you may move it. So this kind of reinforces that. But again, we just looked at 2 Spartacuses. If I'm playing with this, I'm obviously going to use the one that came with this card because its experience is higher. If I want to just swap out the other Spartacus, the promo version for him, it's not going to be worth it because obviously now I have to try and roll a 1, 2, or 3, which is a lot harder, makes this card a lot less useful. Or the new one here says once per round. Moving to the space, you gotta do damage. So it's kind of fun. 1 pushes them away, where the other one can potentially damage them. So one's kind of like using it as a defensive shield, shoving them, where the other one is. But again, you have to also defer the original Anachronism one. You have to do a successful attack first. So you have to do a successful attack, then you have to roll dice hoping to get the experience to do that, and then move them. So hopefully that means they're standing next to you at the time, too. You weren't using like a ranged attack. So interesting. Then we have the Norse Skuld. So you get to kind of see how these are the big round shield. Reveal. Once this round, before an opposing warrior attacks you, you may reduce all their attack bonuses to 0. So we've seen other cards like this. It shuts everything down. Yeah, so before they attack you, you may reduce all their attack, just their attack bonuses, so they don't get any extra bonuses. Versus the other one lets you, start your turn, you may reveal a weapon, so you have to have a weapon. So it's a little bit more of a requirement. But you have to then deplete the card, you move one space. But what's nice there is because the reveal does one thing, and then this is at the start of every turn, you have the option to use this. Where the original Skuld says revealed once this round, before an opposing warrior attacks, you may reduce it. So it only happens once that round, and it has to be on the revealing turn. It's not during this round, all their bonuses are 0, which I think would have been made more sense. Otherwise, it's like, if they attack once, and you're like, no, let that attack go through, because they'll attack a second time with their weapon, and then they'll attack, you just wasted this card, right? So interesting. Then we have Kahulin. She has a different version of her. So she has a little less health. I think it gave them more health in the game, so the game lasts a little bit. They also do more damage with that and stuff too. Which is after you are missed by a basic attack, gain 1 life. The niece of Kublai Khan. Oh, so interesting. So I love some of the lore on here. I didn't read some of this before. So the new one says, Genghis Khan, warrior princess, like armies on horseback, out wrestled every suitor who competed her. And the other one says I had to wrestle him. So that kind of makes sense because the original card we had with her was the green one, which is a wrestling uniform. Well, this thing now makes a lot more sense. I just didn't read the flavor text on it. Yeah, it says after enemies must spend 1 additional attack to move out of her space. So this kind of works again. Her ability kind of works with her flavor. Then if she's a wrestling person, now I get why people can't move, because they are gripped onto her because she's using a wrestling move on them. Once per game, if the champion has revealed a cavalry card, move an enemy into the space adjacent to this champion. So it kind of brings them near them. So it's kind of a different type of ability versus if you're missed by an attack, gain a life, which is very nice, but again, who knows, that could be very abusive if they miss a bunch of basic attacks. Also, now you're back up to full life, right? Then we have the weapon, the Kahuga, which has 1 damage versus 2 damage. And I think they up the damage on weapons a little bit more to make them more different than base attacks. But then the one does have a +2 success on it as well. You may use another weapon in this game, so it's kind of fun. We have another card to let us break that rule, and discard this card to gain 2 life. So they're kind of going with the life aspect with this one. As long as champion has revealed Earth or Metal card, weapon deals 1 additional damage. So yeah, very different flavors completely on those. So it's kind of interesting to see these, because obviously they had original cards to go off and as an inspiration, but they didn't just copy and paste everything. Yeah, so that's what we have for this set. So that was Time Rift, the card game. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope we explained some stuff for you. You guys see what some of the previews were. See what some of the differences. So obviously we can again see they took the concept and the core mechanics of the original game, and they made it their. They more or less copy and pasted the base game, but they didn't copy and paste every card over. Like again, there were I think 7 or 8 full sets of 100 card sets, so it's 700-800 cards for the game. Anachronism was printed, not including promo cards, which I think there was like probably like 30 or 40 of those. I could be even short on that amount. I think there's like 5 or 6 per every set. So like 20 to 50 cards somewhere in there. They could have just copy and pasted almost every one of them cards, just adjusting little things here and there. Like, oh, it says experience. We don't use that. We'll change that to this. Oh, we're going to change this instead of saying metal to change to that. They could have just made minor changes on most of them. You can see almost all of them, they changed them completely. So they took the concept of the game, the idea. Maybe some of the future cards that came out in some of the later sets, they applied to some of the newer, some of the base stuff in this. Because like, oh, that was a fun ability they didn't come up with till set 5. But that's definitely cool. So check out the Kickstarter campaign for this. Check out the Discord. They do kind of talk more on the Discord and answer questions. So if you have more questions, ask them there. You can hit me up on my comments asking me questions. I can try and answer what I can. If not, I can always try and run them through the Discord if you don't have that, and try and get some answers for you. Hopefully they're going to reveal some more stuff about the alternate arts and the cool more promo cards and stuff like that. But yeah, jump in and get it. I think the base set is like, I think starter deck plus like 3 packs, 3 or 4 packs is like $50 is like the initial buy-in, but you also get currently at least 1 free booster pack, plus like a couple of promo cards as stretch goals. But hey, if we can get it up higher, we can earn some extra free packs, which is really cool, because every pack again is 2 more characters, and there's 40 characters in the set, so very cool. Also check out the link in the description for me to play a game. If you want to see how the game is actually played. See you guys later. Bye.